Jesus really does a lot of things that men, of course, would consider to be impossible. But for him, as the Son of God, his power was on full display, and it's clear that he does things with great ease that you and I could never even think about doing, because indeed he is the Son of God. So the miracles that we'll look at tonight testify to the power of Jesus. It's not just a miracle that you're looking at, they're teaching events. We learn about the power and the identity of Christ by studying these miracles. But we'll also learn some lessons about the nature of faith and faithlessness on a couple of occasions as we go through these miracles tonight. So I encourage you to study along with us, and we'll pick up the reading in Mark chapter 4 and verse 35. It says, on the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Now, this is the same day that he taught all those parables. So he's had a long day of teaching, but he tells his disciples, let's get in the boat and we'll go to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. He and his disciples enter the boat, and it says, when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was. This is verse 36. And other little boats were also with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" So this miracle we label as Jesus stilling the storm. He's, as we said, been teaching in parables. Wants to cross over the sea. He and his disciples enter the boat, and they do that. And this great storm arises. I don't know if you've ever been on a body of water when a storm arose, especially one unexpected and came on quickly. A lot of wind, maybe some rain, waves getting high. I was in a boat with my brother-in-law a number of years ago, and this happened to us. It was truly terrifying. And I'm sure these men were very frightened of it, even though they were fishermen and used to being on the sea. At least 4 of them were. They were very, very afraid. They knew the danger that they were in. And sometimes their experience as fishermen may have told them just how much danger they were in. Perhaps they'd even seen others perish on storms in this little sea in Galilee. But Jesus seems entirely unconcerned about it all. He's asleep on this pillow, and the disciples wake him. They're terrified. They say, "Do you not care that we are perishing? We're about to die here. Doesn't that concern you? Don't you care about what's happening to us?" And of course, Jesus is apparently not afraid and is not concerned about what will happen. He knows that he has power. He is, after all, the Son of God, and he is in control of anything that he wants to be. So he rebukes the wind and the sea, saying, "Peace, be still." The word for peace there, it's typically translated peace in most of our modern translations, but really it's the Greek word for quiet. So if you just shout to somebody, you know your neighbor's being noisy or something like that, and you say, "Hey, be quiet," or you're a teacher at school and you tell the kids, "Be quiet." But Jesus tells the storm, "Be quiet. Be quiet and be still. Stop all of this." And immediately there is this great calm. It's not, again, something that happens gradually over a long period of time, by 2 or 3 hours, the storm's sort of subsided. That's not what happens. There's this great calm. Jesus then turns to his disciples, as we read, and he rebukes them for their fear and their lack of faith. The word fear here is an interesting word. It's a word that really means timid. And it's not so much that it describes them as being terrified, as it describes them as being not brave, not courageous, more is the concept of it. So they are timid. They are not courageous. They're fearful. And it all stems from their lack of faith in him. Now, you have to remember, this is fairly early on in their relationship with Jesus. And they've seen amazing miracles, a lot of amazing miracles already. They understood something of Jesus' power, but they had yet to fully trust it. And it would be some long time actually before they did, but they don't have the faith that they should. But when they see what has happened, it says now they feared exceedingly. They lacked courage before. They were timid before, but now they had something to really be afraid of. We'll talk about this some more in just a minute. They said to one another, though, who can this be? So you see, the miracle identifies who Jesus is. His power, his divine power, is on display in this miracle. Surely only God could control the elements like this. They understand a little bit of who they're dealing with now. Who can this be, they say? Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him? A little bit of background about the Sea of Galilee. Of course, Jesus has done a lot of teaching around here already. We've talked about some time he spent in Capernaum, which is right on the coast, and other places around the sea already, and we'll be continuing to look at events around the Sea of Galilee for the biggest part of our lesson tonight. But the Sea of Galilee is a sort of pear-shaped lake. The length from north to south is 13 miles. The maximum width is about 8 miles. Its depth is 157 feet. But interesting part fact about the topography of this area is that the lake itself is 686 feet below sea level. This Rift Valley that flows from the Sea of Galilee down the Jordan to the Dead Sea, and you get to the Dead Sea, and it's actually the lowest place that you can be on earth and still be on earth. It's several hundred feet further even below sea level. So the elevation here is part of the reason that storms can develop so quickly, because there are mountains around. There are pretty good size mountains right around the Sea of Galilee, and then not too far away there's some ginormous mountains, very large mountains as well. And so this change in elevation can create wind currents that, if a front's coming through, can stir up a storm pretty quickly. I noticed a number of years ago, this was back in 2006, that Galilee was in the news for having some pretty bad storms. This storm pictured here occurred in April of 2006, and the newspaper, the Israel News, interviewed a man who said, believe me, it was like a tsunami. I don't think he knows what a tsunami is. That's a tidal wave. So it probably wasn't really like a tidal wave, but maybe the waves were like that on the Sea of Galilee. I don't know. But he says, I thought Hurricane Katrina had come to Israel. So, again, storms on the Sea of Galilee are real events. If you live like we do here in North Alabama, you can kind of appreciate that picture of a tornado. We have more than our share of them around here. They're terrifying events. You can only imagine, again, being on a sea, a lake, a large lake as the Sea of Galilee is, and having something like that happen. Jesus is truly divine. He demonstrates the power of God Almighty. He does the impossible, doesn't he, when he stills this storm? What do we learn from this event about different kinds of fear? The apostles, or the disciples at this point, had two kinds of fear. They had a fear where they lacked to be courageous, where they failed to be courageous in the face of the storm. That's one kind of fear, and it's because they didn't really have faith in Jesus. But then when they saw what he did in stilling the storm, they had another kind of fear. It was this sense of awe and great respect for Jesus and the power that he wielded. There are some kinds of fear that are good. When we fear God Almighty for his power, for what he can do in this world, for being the creator and the controller of all, that's a pretty healthy fear. When we have a kind of fear that causes us to fail to be courageous, to be brave for the Lord, to fail in our faith, that's a different kind of fear, and it's not good. But you see those contrasted right here in this particular miracle.